These are going to be the instructions for step 1 of your underpainting for the shifted still life project from something you are going to set up at home. Um, this is a mass gesture painting and it's designed to show watercolor at its best, especially uncontrolled. We're going to be using wet and wet backgrounds that are uncontrolled and are designed to create moments of cauliflowers, back runs, all kinds of interesting things that will happen as this sits overnight. And remember, you're not duplicating the edges of things. You're estimating the placement and the hue. And you're going to play around with saturation. And the best way to do this is soak it with a hose or soak it in the sink, wet the whole paper, or you can just put a lot of water on it and get it really, really wet. You can pour the water on there. You want it to be really covered. If you get a few flecks that are not, that's okay. We're also going to do a little bit of lift out during this process, but you should be able to see on there really, really shiny. We're not hanging this sideways or anything. We're just saturating it as much as we can with the water. The goal is to not have any hard edges. Once you start getting hard edges, you need to put more water. The goal is also to not start trying to paint these things. We're placing things based on their size, color, value, and placement, but it's going to move around so much that it's really not the most important thing. This is going to be the mysterious, ghostly thing that's reminiscent of the subject later on. This part takes very little time. So I'm mixing, I'm trying to match the color of that brown vase, and then I'm going to block it. Boom. Literally. Boom. It's got a little gray in it. So I'm just generally placing it where it will go. And of course your image is going to be smaller than your paper. I had to do it smaller just so you could see from this camera what I'm doing. I'm just blocking and add water. See, now it's already starting to do what I was hoping, which is a little bit of back runs. You don't want to fill everything in. We have plenty of time to do stuff like that later when we're drawing and painting and deciding where we're going to leave white. But we want to get the general placement without hard edges. Using a variety of sizes of brush. It's kind of got a gray quality to it, so I'm going to put, it's okay if you get a little bit of pigment in there. I'm going to attempt to get this angle, boom, knife done. And then I'm going to try to get a little bit of that orange. Don't want to do too much. You certainly don't want to pill up the paper, but there's a orange. Actually, that's more of the pear. Do the pear. So that color is better for the pear. Brush too small, obviously. Pear. Pear. It's what's called a mass gesture. Shapes instead of lines. And even more interesting with watercolor is that we're creating all these cool techniques and effects. A little bit darker on the base. Now we're talking. The only thing I'm going to do now is that orange that I was trying to do. Wasn't bright enough. Boom. It's starting to dry, so I'm going to put more water. These little flecks of dry paper are actually a nice touch if they happen to happen. If they don't, that's fine. But later we're going to blot a little and you'll see. And then, you know, if it's not looking so cool, just throw some paint on it. Just do something to make it an interesting design. I'm going to take this up a little higher. Water. Okay, boom, done. So now you're going to set it aside and let it dry, even if it's overnight. Sometimes the puddles are so extreme that you need to just place and pull out a little bit of the puddle. Place and pull out. But I don't want to pull out too much because I need this to do the backgrounds. You can pick this up and you can let it drip a little, but not all over because you want white. And then another thing you can do is the lift out. Not just to get the extra puddle, but to do this cool stuff. And if you're smart, you can link it up with the highlights that you might see. Real subtle, but not too much. It's like it's all about restriction, but allowing. So it's kind of, that's enough. I don't want to over blot and I don't want it to get really weird, but this is great color. This is great starting to create cauliflowers. You can also drip it off the side a little. Like I can drip this off a little. But I'm really nuancing the underpainting. I don't care so much about this. I don't want to overdo what I see here. The only thing I still feel like I've lost, which is I think pretty important, is that orange color. So I'm going to try to block that in where it goes. Perfect. That's it. So that's stage one. Let it go, let it sit overnight, forget about it, and then you're going to end up doing your whole other drawing exercise. So that's it for that step.